Okay. Pac-12 competition is going to start for us this weekend. Obviously, a road game against a very good opponent uh, in Washington, and Coach Peterson has done a fabulous job of really developing a program the time he's been there. So I know for a few teams already, there have been some Pac-12 competition games. I think in our conference, SC and Utah have played, and then over in the other conference, Stanford and Washington has played as well. So excited about now entering the Pac-12 division, our division. But more than that, we have 9 games left in the season, and we go into it with a record of 2-1 against a team that's highly touted, and they should be. They've got a veteran offense. They have some skilled players at the wide receiver positions, as well as the running back positions. Their defense is outstanding, one of the better defenses in college football, in my opinion, on what they do schematically, how they built it. They do a nice job with their secondary. They're very talented. They got a good group of up-front guys and some linebackers that play in space as well. So they're an opponent that's very tough at home. We know that. Points this year thus far, they've averaged at about 27 points. They're giving up about 10 points or so. They can run the football. They're very balanced. So this is a good test for our football team. Questions? I didn't go to bed Saturday night. I came into the office. I didn't go home. I was here. We got off the bus at 3:30. I started watching the tape. Watched all 3 phases like I always do. So we got in so late, it didn't make any sense for me to go home because I'm here so early in the morning, you know. So I just got in and watched all the tape, watched all 3 phases of it, and put it to bed so when the coaches came in, when they were watching the tape, I could get in discussion with them about how we played and some things that we got to improve on. Well, I think when a situation like that occurs and they replay it, because of the targeting act, the whole play gets reviewed. If the targeting never happened, it probably doesn't get reviewed, and it did. And right now, the rule, I think, is not a spot foul, and I think there'll be some discussion probably after the season about that maybe being changed. But other than that, you know, you're looking at it and discussing it. We lost. You don't get the loss back. You know, that doesn't work that way in football. I've learned that a long time ago. There's nothing you can do about the past. I've learned from it. You know, I always say football is teaching moments, and we'll learn a lot about ourselves. We got to improve our play on the road. Last 3 years are 4-12 on the road. It's not a good record, and so we got to do a better job than that. And we had a chance to win a road game, and we didn't get it done against a good football team. And I said that week that we played them. They're a good football team. There's a reason they averaged 10 wins in the last 3 years. It's not by accident. They're a good football team. Yes, sir.
You went from a team that's methodical in San Diego State. I think they threw the ball 6-7 times in the second half, to a team that's definitely going to throw the ball 6 or 7 times probably in the first possession. Talk about defensively the flip from going from one to the next.
Well, they're a vertical team, and they'll throw it down the field. They'll take vertical shots similar to what we do. And they've got some explosive players. They're very balanced, though. They can run the football. You know, they rush it for about 156 yards a game. So that's got to be a concern, too. You watch our last tape, we weren't very good against the run due to a lot of alignment errors and basically missing some tackles that allow them big plays. Prior to that, we were pretty good versus the run. We got to get that corrected. But they're going to take their shots. They got a veteran quarterback, good receivers. It's a good football team. I mean, they've been in the top 10. You know, it's not by accident. They're a good football team.
Herm, when you look back at the tape, as far as the running game struggles, did you feel that maybe there were some points where maybe Isaiah Floyd or even Traylon Smith should have got more run?
Well, we say that, but I think what happened is you got to give San Diego State a lot of credit. They were in our backfield a lot. There was no clean runs. We didn't have anything clean. They got after us pretty good with that defense, and it's been in place now for almost a decade. You know, so they had an opportunity to study us, obviously, and they played them last year. So I mean, they get the tape of last year, and they did a good job. I mean, of stopping us from running the ball. But the problem is you can't get discouraged. You have to continue to run the football, and I believe in football games. You have to be balanced. When you're not balanced, that's not good, and you can't throw it as many times as we had to throw it on the road. That's never a good formula. You have to be able to run the ball on the road. It takes the crowd out of the game. You control the line of scrimmage. You become a balanced offense. When you're always going back to throw on the road, bad things generally happen. And so we gotta play better on the road, and we got to get our running game going.
Coach, there's been a lot of talk about the feedback players give you on the sidelines.
Yeah.
What was sort of the sentiment in that game, especially from N'Keal Harry or some of the offensive players, about what they were wanting to get accomplished?
Well, all receivers, the good ones, they're always open. They're 7-11. They're just, and N'Keal's always going to be open, and I get that part. I've dealt with that my whole life as a head coach, and you know it. And it's an emotional. Sidelines are emotional. I think if you guys can figure this out, you should actually get a broadcasting company and Ches film the sidelines of the both teams while the game is being played live, and see how much emotion is over there. And I think sometimes, you can get a camera on a guy in a moment, and all of a sudden, I saw Tom, and I know Tom Brady. Tom Brady had some emotional outbursts. Well, you know what that means to me? They care. They actually care, and that's a good thing. Football is one of these things that I say it all the time. It's chaos. It's controlled chaos. And there's emotions from every guy that is on the bench, that's not sitting on the bench. And people look at it and try to say, oh, they're saying that. They have no idea what they're saying. And sometimes it's good. I mean, some guys, it comes out of their system and they got to get it off their chest for 10 seconds, then it's over. And they go back to playing football. And that's the game of football. It's always been that way. But if you guys want to make some money, I'm telling you, don't even film the game. Just film both sidelines and watch the reactions of players and coaches. But that's the norm. I mean, if they all sat there like this, we'd be going, those guys aren't into the game. And then when they have too much emotion, we say, well, they're not controlling their emotions. No, you don't have to control your emotions on the sideline. Make sure you control them on the field. Because if you don't control them on the field, you're going to make bad decisions. And so I've been involved in this too long. I mean, I remember the sidelines in Philadelphia, the defense I played on. Oh, boy. Oh, man. There was a lot of things going on over there. There was things being said over there. I was like, man, woo, these guys are angry. But that's just the way it is at every level. In professional football, where they're, quote, professionals. Watch the sidelines sometimes. And you'll say, well, what are they doing over there? They shouldn't act like that. Okay, really? Well, okay, I don't know what to tell you. They do, and that's just part of it.
Herm, Frank took a pretty vicious hit, obviously.
Yes.
After the game, he seemed okay. Is any problems?
He's fine.
He is.
He's tough guy. He's from Jersey. He's Jersey. I call him Jersey Frank. He's good. He's all right. That was a heck of an attempt by Frank, too. Nice throw by Manny. Just went up and competed for the ball and just, had a good day. Frank had a good day. He made some big-time plays for us, and you love the guy. You love the way he competes. Yeah.
In that vein, Herm, do you think you found a third receiver to complement N'Keal and Kyle?
Yeah, he's a guy that he's sneaky fast. He seems to get behind people. We've seen this the last couple weeks. Probably is one of the best long ball catchers on our team as far as adjusting to the ball and finding it in the air. I mean, the kid makes a good strip here from Michigan State, or he catches one against Michigan State as well down the boundary there. So he's a fun guy to be around. He's got a lively personality. He knows I was born in Fort Monmouth, New Jersey. He always tells the players, hey, Coach Herm is a Jersey guy, So that's always nice to say when you have a player that understands the mindset of people that were born in New Jersey, right? It's all good.
Coach, to kind of piggyback off that, I mean, you said the frustration in the running game, but you said, leading up into the season, it took 6 months to get their trust. Even though the offense was frustrated, from looking at the tape, is that something you could take that, until that last series, even though they might be frustrated, they kept battling? Well,
and that's critical. They competed. We needed a big takeaway, and they took the ball away. We needed to score, and we scored one and fell short of the second one. So I like that mindset, and you got to build on that. We were very kind of lethargic after the halftime, and then we couldn't find our way. We had 3 possessions, and all of them were 3 and out. And the third quarter was gone. And then all of a sudden, the fourth quarter, we saw the fight. And so if that's who we are in the fourth quarter, then we got to be that way in the third quarter too. And I like that about our guys. They didn't give into it. It could have been easy to give into it because it was ugly. It was an ugly game, and San Diego State had they had put us in a position to where they were controlling the game by running the football. We had to get the ball away, and then we had to score. And I thought the waning moments, we put ourselves in position to either would have been interesting. It wouldn't have been, because that would have been the next decision I was going to have to make, right? If we scored, what are you going to do, right? Yeah, I bet you guys would have wondered. Keep wondering. I know exactly what I was going to do, but I didn't have to worry about it in this one. Maybe there'll be a game where I got to do it, and you'll see what I'm going to do. All right.
I'm tempted to ask, what would you do? But I think we got our answer.
It's like a story hadn't been written yet. I know what I'm going to do, but I can't. It's not for publication yet.
Fantastic. Well, hey, you mentioned building the Washington defense. You're impressed with how they built it. What else do you take from the Washington program if you look to build things long-term here at ASU?
Well, Coach Peterson and I actually spoke to his group when he was at Boise in a bowl game. They were playing a bowl game, and that's when I first met Coach. We've got a lot of ties. We know a lot of people that he's kind of come up through his coaching experiences, and we've kind of connected that way. I saw him up at Sacramento State when they had one of those the football camp up there, and his crew was up there, and we spent a little time visiting. But fine football coach, and it took him a couple years to get it going, and that's what happens. I think when you have a changeover of staffs, then you have to define the people that you want on offense, defense, and special teams, and those are the kind of kids you recruit. And he's done a really nice job of defining who we are, who his teams are, and I think when you look at them in the Pac-12, kind of across the board, big athletic people. That's kind of the Pac-12. That's how I see it. That's how I view it. And they've got those kind of guys. You look at their offensive line. They got some big old tackles that are pretty athletic. They got big people, and that's what wins in this conference. I think big guys, length. That's the Pac-12 when you look at it as a whole, as a conference. You see most people are trying to get those because we're all recruiting the same guys. Well, there's a reason for that because we all play in this conference, right? And so that's what you got to remember. We're all recruiting the same athletes. It's just a matter of where they decide to go, and hopefully some of them will come here.
Going a little more on your run game.
Yeah.
You've been making some changes in the offensive line and rotating some people in there. Do you need a little more consistency there? And then one more thing, can you just talk about your general assessment of how you think this team will come back off a loss, just knowing what you know of these guys?
You're right. We need to have continuity with your offensive line because there's so many things they got to do together. It's one unit, but it's 5 players. As far as these guys' resilience, this is the first time I've been with them for a loss. The first 2 were wins, and I'm hoping what I saw in the fourth quarter is what we do, is we continue to compete that way. When you go on the road, you have to bring your own energy, and I told them that. I told them that all week. I said, this is not going to be one of those games. You're going to have to supply your own energy. I said, because our fan base will travel, and we had a great fan base out there. A lot of people from Arizona were in the stands, rooting us on, which was great. But you still have to have your energy. This place going up to Washington, boy, I tell you what, it's a fantastic venue to play a game in. I mean, it's going to be loud. I can remember when I first went up there as a freshman in college. Quarterback was Sonny Six Killer. I said, he got a good football name, Sonny Six Killer. And, playing those guys up there, and then the venue, and I think they've taken the track out of there, I believe, and now it's even more tight. And they've got a great fan base, so it's going to be spectacular. It's a night game again, and so these are the type of venues you want to play in with this excitement and all that stuff. And I think I'm going to be forced to go to the bubble one day this week just for crowd noise. Put us in the bubble so we can turn the music up so we can get used to the noise because it's going to be noise of our offense. So it's one of those things that I think I'm considering because that's in the best interest of the team. It's not to get away from the weather, so I don't want anybody reporting that. It's for crowd noise and crowd noise only. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. Yes, sir.
You say you didn't get any sleep on Saturday night.
Don't, being the head ball coach.
Yeah, what's Herm Edwards' typical sleep schedule look like? Doesn't seem like you need a lot.
No, if I get 5 in a day, I'm good. When the game was over, I called my wife, and she says, you don't have to tell me. I said, you know. She says, I know. I'll come over Sunday after we go to Mass. And they came over. I saw my family Sunday. But, you know, you don't get a lot of sleep. You can't sleep. You're always thinking of stuff, you know, at night. I mean, you wake up, and you just wake up and you start writing things down, you know, and that's the life of a coach. And believe it or not, when I was working somewhere else and I wasn't coaching, I slept a little bit better, but not a whole lot, you know. But when you're the coach, you don't sleep because you're always thinking of things. You're thinking of things to improve on. You're thinking about your players. You know, all those things come through your mind. There's always something you can do. You know, the work is never done as a head coach because there's always somebody you're visiting with or talking to and trying to uplift people. You know, that's your job as a coach, you know, whether it's the trainers, whether it's the weight coach. I'm always trying to uplift people, you know, to make sure they're doing okay because that's my job. You know, you want to create an atmosphere where people feel good about coming to work every day and, you know, it's a positive day for them and we get something out of it, you know, and for these coaches, and the players were tired yesterday. I could tell in their face. I knew they were going to be tired, you know, and the coaches were tired, but no one's going to feel sorry for you. We got to prepare to try to win us a football game this week.
Coach, how good is it for the youngsters that got that big game out of the way with Michigan State, now going up to Washington to face that zoo-like atmosphere one more time?
Well, it's good in this sense. I think the guys that have played against Washington, they know what to expect. The young guys don't know. They don't know. We got a lot of young guys, and they're going to have to go in there and deal with it and deal with that atmosphere. I just think it's great. I just think college atmospheres are a little bit different sometimes in pro because of all the tradition that's involved in it, you know, and there's always a couple groups that have certain things they're going to do when the game is being played and, you know, the bands and all that stuff is going on. It's just college football. That's what makes it so unique, you know, and when you go to someone else's venue, there's always something you see a little bit different. But the electricity is always in the stands, and those folks they're big-time fans up there with football. There's no doubt about that.
Herm, Darius Slade had been part of the rotation the first couple of weeks, but I didn't see him out there this Saturday.
Yeah, he had a thumb or a finger that was bothering him, and he just felt like he couldn't go. So hopefully he's going to be better this week because we need him. We need all hands on deck playing these guys. So hopefully he'll be available this week.
Herm, as you know, you were first in the nation through the first 2 games against the run.
Yeah.
San Diego State, that's their bread and butter. A lot of it seemed to be kind of stretch, you know, outside the tackle box kind of runs. What did you make about that?
Well, a couple things. Some of them do. The box wasn't set correctly on us. We didn't line up correctly. Some of that is just alignment error, and that's what you dread the most. You know, guys don't line up, and I don't know if it was fatigue or guys just didn't trust it and wanted to make a play. And what they did a good job of really getting the ball to the second level where our safeties and corners had to tackle. If you look at the tackle list, when your corners and safeties are making the majority of the tackles, that's a bad day. Because that's not how it's constructed at all. They have to make some. You know, they do a great job of bringing those receivers in, cracking the support, and asking the corner to come up there. And it's one thing for the corner to come up there. It's another thing when there's a guard pulling around trying to hit the corner. You know, then and we got tough guys, but it's just they did a nice job of really putting us in that situation at times due to sometimes their scheme, due to sometimes we failing not to line up correctly in our own scheme. So it's a teaching moment. I think the guys watched the film yesterday. We got to do a better job of that this week, you know, because you got to stop the run. I mean, it's painful to watch. And it's a hard pill to swallow, you know, when people are running the ball on you because there's hardly anything you can do because the ball is on the ground, and unless you can cause a fumble and they got good runners, it becomes a short game and a long afternoon for you defensively while your offense sits over there and watches the clock being bled down, you know, and that's the problem. They got us into their game where they could control the game. We couldn't score. That's why you got to score against teams like that, in my opinion. You got to get up a couple scores. So they have to abandon it and throw. That never was the case. At the end, we kind of made it a game because we took the ball away and our offense scored and we got into it. But that was the second half of that ball game, and that's why it was so important for us to score as many points as we could before halftime, in my opinion, getting the ball back in the third quarter, trying to put more points on the board. So they had to abandon the run because the clock was their friend. You know, the clock, they weren't playing against, they were playing against the clock. They were saying, let's just keep running the ball, make first downs. As the clock dwindles, we lose possessions. That's why you got to get it to a game where they're uncomfortable playing, and we weren't able to do that, and it's a credit to them.
Coach, the fact that Arizona State has won 10 of the last 11 meetings with Washington and upset them last year, to what extent, if any, in your opinion, does that impact the mentality of both teams entering this game?
Well, I think the team that lost obviously will use it. The team that wins, I don't know if you use it a whole lot. I think you look at the circumstances of how you won the game. That's important. And no matter how you win, you win. But a lot of factors go into that. You know, people have the sense of history. This team has beaten that team so many times. I always go back and go, okay, well, what team was that when they beat them? You know, I just kind of look at that. How many coaches have changed since they beat them? You know, how many players have changed with all those wins? So wins or losses. So I get it. It's a Pac-12 game, which is important. They're not in our conference, obviously. They're in the other division, but they're a big-time football team. It's a big-time football program now, and Coach Peterson has really changed it to that mindset. And so you get an opponent in your conference. There's 9 games left. You win this game, all of a sudden you feel pretty good about getting your first win on the road against a Pac-12 opponent that's considered maybe the one to win that division, right? I mean, so them or Stanford, I guess, right now would they be picking those guys, I would assume, but that's just me assuming things, and I shouldn't do that, but that's how I look at it. Okay, thank you.